Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, doing well. Well, I'm doing well. A little bit of frustration. Doing well, nevertheless.
What are you frustrated about?
Boom. Bloody man, he asks. Well, he's kind of apt for this podcast title, right? You recognize there's a gap. You want to, for me, my tendency, it seems, is, when I realize there's a gap and I recognize what I get to step into and how I get to operate, it initially creates frustration, like, I don't know whether it comes from internal resistance or whether I'm starting to beat myself up a little bit, because hindsight's a wonderful thing when you're in that point, right? But yeah, it's kind of that stage or journey right now of realizing, paradigm's been shifted. There's a new summit, and then it's that phase of, okay, I'm coming down off the other summit. I'm at the base of the next one. I'm on the way up, looking at the one I just climbed, and I'm like, oh God, I know I can get up this one. God, I just want to sprint up it, but I know I can't sprint up it. Right? I've got to just be patient. And there's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it. When I was in the Himalayas, the Sherpas, they said Bastari, Bastari. And it means slowly, slowly. Go at your pace where you can just be attuned. And it was a great kind of symbology of life, because there'd be guys on the mountain that wouldn't listen, and they'd just, even in our group, and they'd just power through. They were way ahead of me. But then that night, I was suffering with altitude sickness, and they then couldn't keep up the pace the following day because and that's how they performed in life. They'd rush into things and smash things down, but then inevitably crash. So it was a really great metaphor for life and for the journey. And so again, frustration, yeah, but I also have a little bit of perspective with it too.
Yeah, I think it's perfect for this conversation. The conversation today is about the gap, right? And you know what we're talking about, so you leaned right into it, which is beautiful. And so let's talk about what the gap is, and we can come back and we can use this as an example, because I think it's a perfect example. The gap, what we're talking about here, guys, is the difference between where you are today, right? Where you are in this present moment. So let's assume that you're going to be very honest with yourself, which is really difficult to do, Tim, right? It's difficult to be really, really honest with yourself. Where are you today? Not where you want to be, not where your ego wants you to be, not where you hope people think you are, but where are you really today in this moment, right?
Yeah.
And then when we have that, right, where we are today, when we have that vision, then it's where do we want to be, right? So Tim made this idea, like you climb the mountaintop. So some of you guys are in valleys, right? You guys are in deep, deep, dark valleys right now. And some of you guys are on the way up the mountain, and some of you guys are at the top of the mountain. But when you're in the valley, right, all you see is this huge, overwhelming mountain in front of you, right? And you can visualize yourself ascending that mountain. Maybe you can visualize yourself standing at the peak. But there's a difference, right? There's a difference between the guy who walks in the valley and is too scared to climb versus the guy who is already summited and standing at the top, right? There's a difference there. And that difference is the gap. And that gap can be in any area of the 5 territories. Maybe it's all of them, right? So again, guys, if you're new, the 5 territories that we've discovered for a powerful man are self, health, wealth, relationships, and business. 5 dimensions here, right? And which brings about consciousness. And with that idea, you want to look at where you are in what area. So maybe it's business. I'll use that first and foremost as an example. Maybe your business right now is turning, let's just say it's turning 2 million, right? And you need it or want it and desire and hunger for it to be a 5 million business. I'm not using $5 million. I'm going to use dollars because I'm an American. $5 million business. There's a gap in your leadership and also your business, your operations, your sales, your marketing. Maybe it's legal, maybe it's financial analysis, whatever it is. There's a gap between what you're doing now today and where you'd be at 5 million. Otherwise, you'd be doing it, right? You'd be there. Maybe it's just sales. I don't know. Maybe it's leads for you. But there is a gap, and that gap is like a chasm, right? So it's almost like the Grand Canyon for most of us. We're standing on one side of the Grand Canyon and we're looking way off in the distance to the other side. We're like, crap, how do we get there? Maybe it's in your relationship, right? So maybe in your relationship right now, your marriage isn't working out very well. And maybe you're in a sexless marriage, it's dead. You and your wife are maybe like roommates where, you just fight over the dishes and the little things bother you, but you're not having sex and intimacy, at least not good sex. And you visualize and you see this marriage and this relationship that you desire, that you want. The ones in the movies, right? The one where the man comes home from work or from an adventure and the wife is so excited to see him, can't wait, is longing for him, and looks up to him with admiration, respect, and love, and really can't wait to get in his pants, right? That's what you want. But where you are today is in a sexless marriage that's dead and dying faster inside. Maybe it's gone. What we're seeing here between those two visions, whether it be business, marriage, or health, or wherever else it is in the 5 territories, there's a gap between where you are today and where you want to go. And that space, we're going to call the gap for this conversation, and how to identify that gap.
Yeah, I was on right before, half an hour before we jumped on here. I was doing the daily team meeting with the advisors and had some calls with some guys yesterday who were interested in, joining the movement. And one of the guys apparently, wasn't a good fit. And I was like, okay, interesting. It's been progressed from an initial consult. We believed that we could help him. He had the relevant pain, he had the relevant urgency, and had the desire to change things in his marriage. But then the advisor, after being on the call with him for quite a lengthy period of time, determined that, he wasn't a good fit, which for me was obviously a red flag. Point being is where I'm going with this is I got off the meeting and the frustration that I was feeling at the beginning of the call is in recognizing the gap, in he's literally saying to the guys, look, guys, the goals that you have for your life this year, the lives that you've told me you committed, not want, you committed to living. Right now, we're not there. And it sucks that we're not there. And obviously, part of me, I could see the dejection on their faces, and part of me wanted to alleviate that a little bit. Having, spoke to one of the guys who said he wasn't a good fit, we determined what the real issue was. It was in his leadership on the call, nothing to do with the man. The man was a good fit. And it's what you do when you recognize the gap, right? Some guys don't want to sit with the pain and disappointment long enough. So they either reduce the gap by aiming smaller and always have unfulfilled potential and dreams and hopes, or they sit with the disappointment and let it sink in and use it to actually then work smart and get counsel. We hire sales consultants to help us in leading and growing and managing the sales team. Quite frankly, because, I've never led and managed a sales team at the size that we're building, right? So I don't know what to do. So we've got a gap. So what do I do in that gap? Do I just shoot recklessly and aim and hope? And I could do that, but I'm going to be stuck there for a long period of time. How do we bring somebody in? Same in relationship. Obviously, Mira and I work in intimacy coach. You have as well. So you get the gist. But the point being is I was on the meeting today, helping the guys see the gap and the fact that we're not there. The trajectory we're on, we can be there if we keep going with this level of candor and honesty about our performance and applying the lessons we're learning. We'll be there. But right now, we're not there. So don't fool yourself into thinking we are, guys. And honestly, there was part of me that, as I could see the dejection on the face, wanted me to take them out of that. But I didn't. I said, look, it sucks, doesn't it? It sucks that we're not there. It sucks that we're not performing at the level. But this is what world-class sales teams, enrollment teams, advisors. This is the level they're performing at. This is how many offers they're making. This is how many men they're speaking with, just to paint a picture. So if you can't handle the workload of today, you can't handle what you've got, how can you expect to have more? It's just not going to happen. So you either change your goal and make it smaller and play small, or you lean into that and learn to grow your capacity to be able to perform at a higher level. And we left the conversation obviously all very fired up, and we'll see what today brings. But again, to the conversation, it's very apt, right? And in the past for me, it's been easier to either let my positivity mask my reality or smallen the goal, right? Because it doesn't weigh as heavy in the moments before when you're trying to bridge that gap. But that was years gone by. That's, it's not a recipe for success, like a happy life. But a lot of guys struggle to sit with it, right?
Yeah, well, I think the key here, where I'm going to say on what you did, Tim, is you identified what the real gap is, right? Let's just go back to sales, right? As an example, you said, well, I've never done this before, right? First, you identified where you are, right? With your experience, education then you identified, here's where I, Tim Matthews, want to be, and I want the movement to be, et cetera. Right. And then there's like, oh crap, there's a gap here, right? There's just a gap, whether it be a knowledge gap, experience gap, or an action gap of some sort, right? These are all different kinds of gaps that can be in there. And then you took massive action. The first step here, guys, is identifying where you are now. Second step is where you want to be. Now, what's going to happen for most of you is you're going to identify where you want to be first. And that's okay. I want to be fit. I want to have 6-pack abs. I want to lose 2 stone, 20 pounds, whatever it is. Cool. Okay. Now you have the future you. That can be very clear. Guys are in different camps here. Now, where are you now? You're like, crap, I'm 20 pounds overweight, 30 pounds overweight, or I want my business to excel to a certain level and sales is missing, or what have you. Now you got to identify what are the steps you need to take to get there. What's the massive action? Let's use the 80-20 principle, right? What is the 20% of actions that'll get you 80% results? So, Tim, one thing that you do beautifully well, and to my experience, all successful people do, is you said, what's the biggest constraint here? Time, right? How do I shorten that time? And so you went out and found arguably probably the best sales mentor and coach, and you hired them. And not only did you hire that person once, but you hired that person twice and their team to come in and shorten. And you were able to learn probably more about sales in that 6-month period and running sales teams and sales systems. And I've done consulting for a long time, than most anybody that I know. Like, you can go out and teach sales at this point, how to run a team. So you literally go from knowing not nothing, but not much, right? Like most people, everybody thinks they know sales. They read the books, what have you, to you've learned because you went through the teenage phase, right? Where you think you know everything. And then all of a sudden, what we all know is like we become adults and we're like, crap, I know so much that I know I don't know that much, right? That's the cool, enlightened phase. The scary phase is the teenage phase, man. You don't want teenagers to ever have the keys to your car. Whenever I meet a so-called expert, right? If they're not humble and they're just like, I'm an expert, they're in teenage phase, right? Because they haven't realized they don't know what they don't know. And that's a scary person to work with. That scares the crap out of me. So you identified the gap, and then you quickly looked at, how can I fill this gap as fast as possible? So I'll argue with you a little bit here on this mountain analogy, that you are going up there steadily, but what you did differently than most people that are just slogging up the mountain, you stopped, paused, got a mountain guide who's climbed that mountain thousands of times. And they said, hey, if you go this route, this backside route, which nobody else goes through, it's really easy. There's almost like an elevator, taking you to the top. And yeah, it's steady, but it's a lot faster. These other guys are trying to climb this mountain in the most dangerous routes possible. And that's why they're all failing. So, guys, when you're listening to this, and we're talking about the concept of the gap, is when I say these 5 territories, and I'll say them again, I want you to think about, hey, if this territory was working at 100% or working better, it would be the most important to me, the most impactful for me, right? And I'll share what mine is for you guys. We'll call it the domino, the catalyst. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to use another analogy because they've done studies on this, guys, and you've seen them before, where they'll grab these big ass dominoes, like the size of a house, and you can't push it over. You can't move these dominoes. Maybe you guys have seen, I think the study's out of Japan. You can YouTube it. And then they get another domino, smaller, but still big, and they put it next to it. And they keep doing that until they have a small little domino, the size of a domino. And when you just touch that little domino, it has a chain reaction, a ripple effect. These dominoes cascade down, and this giant domino that you could not move by yourself topples over. Now, we want to figure out what that is for you. So when you visualize the powerful man that you are, the future self, let's just say, the 5 territories, which one of those is your big domino? Is it self, right? Your ability to be with yourself, to spend time with yourself, to play. Is it health? How is your fitness? When your health is in order and you're working out, do you dominate all the other areas, right? Is it your area of wealth, right? Your spiritual wealth, your investments, your financial wealth, but where you are with your spirit. Is it in your business? You know, when business is flying and money's coming in, everything works. Relationships work, health works, everything works. Or is it your relationships? Wow, when my marriage works, then I want to work out more. So my health works and my business goes in, et cetera, et cetera. Which of those 5 territories is your domino? Now, once you've identified, for me, it's fitness, Tim. If I'm working out and I get my fitness dialed in, my relationship soars through the roof, right? My businesses excel, right? My ability to take care of myself and spend time, quality time with me is just natural, right? I have fun more often. My spiritual wealth is just easier, right? It's my outlet going through there. Everything comes in order for me when I take care of the big domino, which is for me is fitness, right? So where is it for you guys? What area? Self, health, wealth, relationships, and business. Where is it for you? Identify that. And where do you want to be? So for me, I'll use myself as an example, right? I want to do it. So when we work out, where I go, especially, there's a leaderboard, right? And they have different categories going through there. And I've broke the advanced category a couple times. I'm mostly in the intermediate though. And that pisses me off. I hate being in the intermediate category, like no other. I have to be in the advanced. I want to be, and there's an elite category, and it pisses me off. I'm not there. Right. So there's a gap to where I need to go. So, okay, here's where I am today. And I actually know where I am. Right. I get on my scale. I have a scale over here. I do the InBody, the body fat analysis, muscle mass, all of those things. I'm looking at my nutritionals, my supplements, all of these things that I know how to do. And I'm looking for that 80-20. Like, right, there's a gap between where I am today, where Doug Holt is, and where Doug Holt wants to be, desires to be, needs to be, being pulled to be. And like what Tim is talking about, guys, is what is the big gap here? What's the 80-20 for here? Right? What are the things that get you? What are those couple things? Let's limit it to 4 things here. 4 things that if you took immediate action and consistent action will help you bridge that gap. So for me, in the intermediate category of my fitness based on these tests, to get to elite is like a Grand Canyon size gap. It just is, right? I'm going to be 44 here in a little bit, let myself get out of shape, getting back into it. And I'm stoked to be on an intermediate. I'm going quickly into the advanced, but I need to be at the elite. I just need to be, just who I am. So there's a gap, and it's Grand Canyon size. Now, how do I get there? How do I build a bridge to get there? Better yet, how do I get a helicopter to get me there fast? And what are those things? So I know for myself, Tim, the number one thing will surprise you to help me bridge that gap. Do you know what that is for me? It's not what you think. I guarantee that. That's why it's a fun game.
It's making me want to think outside the box. I'm thinking I was going to say sleep, but it's not going to be sleep.
Sleep is one of my top 4.
Sex.
Sex is always one of my top 1. Range of motion exercises, flexibility.
Okay.
So
we'll leave you at DOMS, so you feel like you can do more of it, you mean?
I can just move my body more freely. And when I can move my body more freely, I want to move my body more freely. So just before we got on to, you and I connected here to do this podcast, I was upstairs with my son doing basically what we call like almost like a duck walk, we call it. And, basically where you're on I couldn't do that 2 months ago. My knees would have hurt. My hips hurt. So, just sitting down, just working, grinding, all of those things. But I'm doing it and I'm excited. So I'm moving more, right? I'm doing other movements. I'm rolling on the ground. I'm doing other range of motion exercises as I'm playing. And that's the key, right? Now I'm playing where I was too stiff to play. And then when I'm looser, and by the way, I'm not touching my toes or I'm not doing any yoga bends or any of that shit. Like I'm still not that flexible and never have. Even when I played soccer in college, I wasn't that flexible. But anyway, so the point being is that's a catalyst. That's a domino for me that when that gets knocked out, the other things start to fall in place. I want to work out more. And when I work out more, guess what? I want to eat better. And when I'm working out, eating better and doing my range of motion, I go to bed earlier because sleep is important to me. So what I'm doing is I've looked at this in all areas. It's not supplements. It's not how much creatine am I getting or anything like that. Those are details. Supplement is a supplement to a healthy diet, right? But what is that domino? When I get my range of motion, right? So I do my stretches, everything else starts to fall into place, right? Get a coach, right? To make sure I do it. I ask my coach, my fitness coach all the time, what can I do better? Right? He's like, really honestly, man, you're progressing so fast. I would say mobility for you so you don't get injured. It's like, perfect. That's exactly what I thought too that I'm working on, right? I'm getting feedback. I'm going in, getting my body fat analyzed, right? To see how my diet and nutrition. I'm 43. I'm not 23 anymore, right? I can't go out and get chorizo burritos 2-3 times. I grew up in Santa Barbara and Southern California. Mexican food's everywhere. I can't do that as much as I'd like to, or as I used to anyway. So identify the gaps of where they are. And without identifying that gap, Tim, range of motion exercise as an example probably wouldn't come on the radar. Right? You think I need to go to the gym more often. I need to work out. I need to eat ketogenic or whatever. No. If I do my range of motion exercises, the other ones fall into place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously you're describing this is the first step they men go through in the brotherhood, right? And they come in after the activation method. And it's all about identifying obviously where they want to be, but then we dial it back to what's the keystone habit, right? What's that one domino effectively? The tiny hinge that will swing the large door. It just makes it so much easier when you're able to identify what it is. Because, if you guys are kind of a bit confused right now, maybe even thinking, well, what might it be? You're not alone. The good news is the guys that go through, usually it takes about 3 or 4 revisions to land on exactly what it is for the men, right? Often, let's say it's fitness, when the guys write out, they say, oh, my keystone habit is working out 3 or 4 times a week. It's like, well, no, it's not. What is it you get to do that makes working out 3 or 4 times a week inevitable? It makes it easier. Maybe it's getting to bed by a certain time. Maybe it's putting your running shoes, by the bed when you wake up. I don't know what it is, but you get the gist, right? So identifying that tiny little hinge. And what advice would you give the guys, Doug? What steps can they go through here to identify what that is? Let's say they're listening to this, they're going to do this on their own. Obviously, the guys in the brother have the benefit of, they get feedback from the coach, right? Like with your fitness coach. But assuming that, they're going to listen to this podcast, they're maybe going to replay it when they've got a notepad in front of them or the journal, or if they're in the Powerful Man, the coil. And what can they go through, to really identify what it is?
So a couple things here. One is there's been a request to do a training on this. So I'm doing a training in our Facebook group. It's totally free, just to give it back to the guys. So go over there if you want more detail. Because in my experience doing this hundreds of times with men, is it's really hard for people to identify that, right? It sounds like, work out 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah, that'll get me. That'll solve it. No, as Tim said, that's really not what it is, right? It's an action, and if you guys are doing, it's a critical driver to your KPI or whatever you guys want to say, or if you're doing OKRs, whatever, you get the idea. It's something that produces you up there, right? That you can look at. So first thing to do more than anything is identify where you want to be in all 5 territories, and do so with the idea, dream. This is where I want to be in my body. I want to have a 6-pack. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe it's, I want to be able to run again, or what's possible. And what I would recommend, guys, is look around and see if it's possible for another man. It's possible for you. It may seem like a far-fetched thing, especially like if your relationship's in the tank and you want a good marriage, right? Just write down what you want. And then second step, Tim, is get really friggin' real with where you are. No blame, no judgment, right? I get on the scale, my numbers aren't lying to me, right? Especially when I get my body fat done. Is that what I want to see? I'm looking good in the mirror. When I have my shirt on, Tim, my chest is popping, arms look great. Take that shirt off. It's like, oh, what happened there? Right? Get real with yourself. Not from a place of judgment, right? But a place from like, okay, that's where I'm at. Got it. Now that I know where I'm at and where I want to go, I can build a roadmap. Then the only thing stopping me is the gap and me. So once you've done those 2 things, you figured out where you want to go, all 5 territories. You realize where you are. Pick one of those at least, right? In my experience, picking all 5 is too hard. Pick one of those, the big domino for you. Then identify that keystone action. And then do what Tim did. Take massive action. Not just, I'm going to take action. Massive action immediately. So Tim, in his example, identified a gap from where he is to where he wants to be, right? And for you, it was in the business category, right? You identified what the gap was in the business, and you identified where you were and where you want to be. And then you went out and sought out one of the best trainers and coaches in the world. And it wasn't cheap and expensive. Not only that, the price point was one thing, but it was the investment in your time, Tim. And you rolled the dice, said, I'm doing it. You doubled down on it. And that's what separates you, Tim, from the average guy, the average man. A lot of men say they want this. I want a better marriage. I want a better body. I want a better business. But they don't do shit. Pure and simple. They pretend. They use excuses and everything else to get in their way. Shit, I've done it. I know you have too. We all have done it. But I think what separates you in this example, Tim, is you took massive action. So guys, I would recommend you do it. So if it's in your fitness, what's massive action you can do? Put 10 grand on the line with your best friend. If I don't hit my goal by this time, that 10 grand's yours. Or anti-charity is a great way of doing it, right? Write a check to a charity you hate or a political party you hate, right? And give it to a buddy and say, if I don't hit my fitness goal by this date, you give them that money, right? Hire a coach, right? In relationship, go to the activation method. If you haven't been through the activation method, you're crazy, in my opinion. It's amazing, right? Do that. Allow yourself to take massive action. If it's in your business, get a business consultant, a business coach. What gap do you have? Maybe you just want someone to come in and audit your business, right? You know what? I don't even know where my gap is. Cool. Get someone to come in and do a business audit for you. Let them tear it apart and show you the holes in your business before your competition does. So that's step 3, Tim, is really figuring where that is and going through there. And guys, announce it, declare it. Go to the Facebook group and write it down. Be like, yo, this is my problem. Just like I just told you guys, for me, it's fitness. I know fitness is my domino that when I'm working out and doing things, everything falls back into place. I just know it. Right? I had sex with my wife before we got on this podcast. Right? It just falls back into place and everything becomes easy. just becomes easy for me. For you, it might be relationships. For you, it might be business. For you, it might be wealth. For you, it might be self. All of us are different. For most of us, it's going to start in the area of relationships, right? I fixed that domino because it was mine a long time ago, and I got that one moving. Now I'm going back and reclaiming my fitness. And you get to go do these again, guys. So just be honest with yourselves. There's no judgment.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Don't judge yourself with this. It's you're gonna rob yourself of a real opportunity here by taking it personal. It's just where you are. Right? It's just where you are. It's a great reflection of where you are, and you might not like where you are, but you have a choice. You either make peace with the fact that it's where you are and change it, or you try and resist it and wrestle with it, and you'll still be here in a year's time. The choice is yours. It just depends what kind of life you want to live. What standard you want to play at. What do you want to be remembered for? Because your kids, if you've got kids, obviously, I don't right now, but they do what you do, not what you say, right? A lot of the guys talk about being role models for their kids, yet they're out of shape, drinking alcohol, not coming home early, arguing with the wife. Oh, but it's not having any effect on the kids. It seems to, they're happy. Yeah, but when they're 20 years old, 21 years old, and they're getting into a relationship similar to you and repeating the pattern, then that's when you see it. You don't see it when they're like 5 or 6. But the point is, you've got a choice, right? That's the beauty of free will. That's the beauty of this world. You have a choice. If you choose to settle, then you've also got to choose to pay the price.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. And then, guys, we're going to leave you with a thought here. It's not your fault where you are today. It's based on circumstances and things like that and choices. But it is your fault if you don't take action once you realize it, right? Let's just be real. Like me being out of shape, it seemed to creep up on me, man. I like, oh, wow, that happened fast. What, it's like 1 minute I'm in shape. Next minute I got 2 kids and I'm out of shape again. My version of out of shape, not my standard. Dude, it happened like that. And I know everybody else around me was like, no, it didn't, but it felt like it did. And it's my fault if I recognize it and then don't do anything about it. It's just my fault. It's pure and simple. So guys, you get to take massive action on it as well. And guys, as always, if this is your first time with us over here at the Powerful Man Show, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus and get a free training. We still have the Reignite cheat sheet up there. Take action, try it, make sure it works for yourself. It's around the area of relationships. If you haven't done it, you're missing out, guys, especially during COVID times. Come on, reignite that relationship. And if you have been for us a while, listening to us, go over and leave us a review, an authentic review, please, so other men like you can find the show, right? They're anonymous reviews. Do it on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Shout out to those guys over there leaving comments. Those are always great to see. And then also, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're finding this, or on Facebook. And I'm going to give you all of you guys one thing is get into that Facebook group and share. Step up. The guys that are actually sharing in that group are getting massive results. They're getting massive results. I'm in there. Tim's in there. The other coaches are in there just helping for a grand old price of nothing, right? So get in there, right? Even the guys in the Brotherhood and the guys in the Accelerator and our other course, it's the Inner Circle. Those guys pop in there from time to time. Those guys are amazing. So gentlemen, as always, it's up to you to take action here, right? Do the work. Don't just listen to one of these just so you can hear Tim's soothing voice. Actually do the work and take massive action. Guys, until next time, we'll see you on the Powerful Man Show.